Uranium friends, let's check in on global atomic. GLO on TSX. So this is a much maligned, much talked about, much loved name in the community. I guess it makes some sense, right? So they have a pretty good asset there with the DASA mine, but major geopolitical risk, and anyone who's really truly been following the sector and the space, well, they're fully aware of it, right? So a monthly chart. So I've had this. I'm going to zoom in. I've had this value area highlighted for a long time. Now, this is the coup lows right here. Uh, so, they obviously they've been breached, but this is the spot where it was a big thing. Now, there's forgetting about technical analysis right now. Anyone who doesn't know or follow that praise Keck guy on Twitter, he's pretty much really following the fundamentals on this name. So, anyone who's interested in an investment in Global Tonic would be wise actually to follow this guy Praise because he's uh he digs in deep, no doubt. So he's a great guy to have on our side, especially a guy like me who does a lot more technicals. The fundamental guys, the straight up fundamental guys, the non BS fundamental guys, the non pumper types like Praise are great to have in my circle, as far as I'm concerned. We'll love having them. Toilet King is another guy that I would be following too, as far as the fundamentals. These guys look at things very differently than I do. So I always want people like that in my investing journey. So regardless of that, I'm gonna say I forget who it is, but um, this guy asked about global atomic. Um, and he raises a good point, right? I honestly don't think TA matters with GLO at the moment because everything is basically news based. And I can't. I agree, actually. I think that if this name gets the right news, it's probably going to go on a pretty good run. So, what will that run look like? What would I think that run looks like? What are the probabilities on that run? Does it just go up 100%? I don't know, but the probabilities say no. The technicals say no, but that's the deal, right? So technicals, that's what we're looking at. So I highlighted this value area a long time ago, and if you stretch it, if I take it across, you know, um, it's catching a lot of action in here. So it would be, the markets. What they say, the market. They don't necessarily repeat, but they rhyme. So there's a lot going on in here. So it would make sense that this is a value area. So it's a good value area, right? And it's taking into account the coup low. So we've breached that to the downside, which makes it, technical stops should have fired for sure, in my opinion. And it seems like they did, right? So you can just see this. There's some technical stops just got anyone who got in here, which was myself, by the way. Anyone who got this coup bounce, first of all, they did great. I am one of those people. I did very well on that. I did not hold up into here. I think I was getting out. I definitely got out a lot here. I'm sure I did. I can't remember. I could go timestamp myself, but I'm sure I got out here because this was a big breach here, basically saying that the run was over. It wasn't, by the way, and I got stopped out. But regardless of that, I still made a great trade. But anybody who did, say, all right, I'm buying these lows. If it breaks below them, I'm out. I'm putting my stop in. Blah blah blah. Done. Well, they're done at this point. They're those technical stops is hit. So, a long time ago, I was taught about, stops might not be technical. They could be fundamental as well. So, did a bunch of fundamental stops hit? I would think that the fundamental stops got hit here. But maybe the fundamental long-term investors that were in down here and all this stuff, they're like, all right, let's see how it plays out. And then they got this move. There was a financing here, there's bank delays, there's all sorts of stuff. So maybe some fundamental stops have hit, or maybe the guys with the fundamental stops said, all right, well, I got this run, I got a piece of it, blah, blah, blah. if it breaks this coup level again, I've got to be out because it just means the fundamentals are not favorable and the technicals are not favorable. The technicals for sure are not favorable at all for this name as we go through, right? So on this monthly chart, going to see a big break in the volume profile. So I'm telling, in my opinion, I have this marked for a specific reason. I got to look exactly why. All right. So, um, it's like a last line of defense. Yeah, it's this right here. This weekly bottom, this weekly low here is where I have it marked, which it does coincide with a little bit of volume here. And in my look, I was saying, all right, this is the last line of defense before it's coming down to revisit this whole area, right? So 65 to 50 cents, it could be visiting if it takes this. This is the last line of defense, in my opinion. Um, so 50 to 65 cents, you can't, you just cannot, you got to be aware that that's in the cards, especially if this breaks. And this is not great support, but it is here in this volume profile. So you go back to this monthly again, and the volume profile is just one big hole. So I mean, you can still see this there, but this is a big hole. You would just make, even if you don't understand charting, you would say, all right, well, it looks like there's a shelf here. Yeah, there's a shelf. So it starts to build in this area. So the 50 cent to 65 area is a possibility if we lose this last line of defense. The 3-month chart, a quarterly chart. Interestingly enough, this is all one big uptrend, right? And this is not a downtrend. This entire quarterly, let me just see here. You got your high, you have your low. Yeah, it's a lot of technical analysts will call this all one move up until we get to this coup low and then the bounce. That gives you a pivot. It gives you the lower high and now the lower low. So it's a confirmed quarterly downtrend. Let me just look at the 6-month chart and see what that looks like. Yeah, all one move. There's no pivots here. It's really hard to make any. I mean, you could make an inference with this pivot here, but most technical analysts on these smaller names, the OTC stuff, the TSX Venture, are gonna look at this as all one move. But it is without a doubt, um, in the very least, the quarterly downtrend has been confirmed with these pivots. So it's still in a quarterly downtrend. It's breaking down below its historical value area. The one thing that's interesting that I saw with RSI is that this is a notorious place on a monthly for it to bounce. So if you start studying RSI on a name, you say, all right, well, this is a spot. Doesn't mean much, but it's something, right? You look at the daily and it's pretty oversold, but then you really look at the daily here and say, all right, well, this isn't really, there's historical precedent that it goes much lower. So you can't put a lot into RSI. You can just use it as a little checkbox in your favor. So, I'm thinking that the fund, I am not in this name and I will not be in this name until there's a fundamental turn. And I'm not sure that there will be. So, and I would assume there's going to be people that are in my that have the same stance, because, and I'm gonna think that they're gonna be watching because I'm watching in particular because it does have a great asset. So if there's a way to unlock value of their great asset without it getting stolen by the Chinese or the Russians or any other Eastern bloc country, which kind of precludes the West from getting a handle on it. Stockholders could be toast on that. There's a chance that the Chinese just buy the company out. What happens to the stock then? So those are things that you have to take into consideration. Technically speaking, if it doesn't hold this spot, this number, this red line, and that's why I have that mark there, it's my warning signal. I think it's coming down to 50, 65 cents on the TSX. I do believe and I do agree that if there is some sort of news, um, it could have a really good run. But who's going to game that? I'm not going to game it. I'd rather chase a 10 to 15 to 20% move back up because I know where the true possible resistances are. I can make a feasible targeting plan and a risk reward setup. So I would rather have the fundamental news come to me or a good technical bounce come underway. Now, I did say, with stocks in general, someone always knows, right? So someone's going to know. We're going to see it in the price action. And it's likely that you're going to see in some sustained, quiet accumulation type volume that is increasing, which we don't have. That's going to be insiders or people that know there's some sort of deal coming down the pipeline. It goes forward and it goes in reverse, right? So, maybe there was before you could start looking at the news and everything and where they drop and, was there the price action telling you that the financing was coming, that 15 million Canadian that came on the very day. I don't know exact day when it did come, but you could probably see it in the charts before it happens. Most of the time you can. So regardless of that, I'm seeing this 50 to 65 area as your next true support where it could possibly get down. It could go deeper. Yeah. 50 to 65 is, and here's your point of control on this chart for the life of this chart. Your point of control is right there, 48 cents, 48, 50 cents. So don't be surprised. Just be aware. There's a big technical break here. We got a last line of defense and then a big drop into the next support. That's the way I'm seeing it. Over and out.